Welcome to American Exceptionalism on New Right Network with your hosts, Kevin Fobbs and Susan Swift. Get ready to transform your life and have the doors of make-believe media blown away with an hour packed with American exceptionalism founded by faith and fire as we counter liberal political persecution and preach the political gospel while we explore the coming American resurrection. Your voices will be heard. Silence is betrayal. Welcome to American Exceptionalism, and we are joined today, of course, with my wonderful co-hosts, Susan Swift, and myself, Kevin Fobbs. And we're going to tackle something I think that you're going to be interested in finding out about, and that is the Trumpian effect. We call it the Trumpian effect on the news cycle, and how that may actually be able to defeat the historic midterm losses, Susan.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the election coming up. I think a red wave is rising, and I don't think that the Democrats want to admit it.
Right. No, they don't want to admit it because that would be like two in a row. And of course, that's going to be like devastating. And talk about devastating, I want to kind of give us a little bit of a focus on the past, because I think the past sometimes can be prelude to the future. But in this case, with the Trumpian effect, it might be not so. So according to the history site, and this is something that actually occurred over 100 years ago, 1894, the Democrats were in trouble. They're always in trouble. We know that they're always in trouble. They lie like a rug. But in this
because
case,
they lie.
Yeah.
they can't win elections if they would actually be honest. Like, yes, we want to control every aspect of your entire life, down to the food you eat and who you're allowed to date.
Exactly.
Well, that's why we can't win without lying.
In 1894, we had a Democrat president, Grover Cleveland, and he was elected 2 years prior. Now, there was a recession. Most of you don't realize that, but that was a catastrophic recession. Actually, it was pretty bad in comparison to the Depression. It was actually, some might say it might have been worse, depending on how it affected certain states in America. There was a railroad strike as well, and hundreds of thousands of jobless workers who were demonstrating in D.C. They wanted relief, and the Democrats, of course, couldn't deliver. So in the end, in 1894, in that midterm election, the Democrats lost 100 seats in Congress. It's the largest turnover of power in the history of the United States.
People got smart.
Yeah. And you know, what's interesting about that is that, again, I want to talk about the past because I think it's prelude sometimes to the future, is that the Democrats lost in such unbelievable numbers. And this is on the heels of the Panic of 1893, which was the recession, that it took almost 10 years for the nation to recover and for the country to recover with the Republicans actually in control, because they had to change back, recapture, of course, our America as we knew it, and at the same time help America to grow. This was like our example without the Trump effect of America being great again, because unbelievable what was happening to America in 1894. The other thing that was so punishing about that, and I think it's important to understand, is that it really took two presidents to actually recover. And I think the first one, of course, was Franklin D. Roosevelt, and he had the first time since that blowout where he did not lose the House. That was under his administration. And I believe it was in 1934, I believe. And then, of course, George W. Won it in terms of his election, his midterm election, 2002. So as we go forward to this, when you think about the blue wave that's actually evaporating, the Democrats need to.
No, the blue wave is coming up from the south. It's called a caravan of 14,000 illegal invaders.
Yeah, but you know, Susan, they can't vote.
That's the blue wave. Come on.
At least they're not right now.
Well, at least they're not registered voters yet. I'm sure. I think I've actually heard I think in San Francisco, they're actually allowing illegal immigrants that they know are illegal immigrants to vote in like a local school election or something. So the camel's nose is under the tent on that. You know, why don't we just send them all ballots down there to Mexico? Just send them ballots, and then they can vote. And if they vote the right way, we just automatically make them citizens of our democratic republic, right? The People's Republic of the United States. Yeah.
Well, you know, thinking about what's going to happen, I look at the 23 House seats that the GOP, they have to lose that in order for the Democrats to win. Now, looking at it and doing the analysis, we're going to do a little bit of that deep diving next week, but the one thing that I think is important for us to understand is that the retirements, that's really what's affecting what the losses might be in
Yes.
terms of the GOP, because a number of congressmen and women have decided that they're going to take that out clause and leave. And that's why we have so many House seats in play right now. Now, the question really, again, going back to the Trumpian effect is, how does Trump really play in those? And Susan, will it really matter in the end that Trump is not on the ballot, but really on the ballot?
I think having Trump on the ballot, but not on the ballot, but what he's doing, he's nationalizing the elections. That's what he's going out to all of his rallies. The rallies are on fire. And he tells them, at the rallies, well, I'm not on the ballot, but I am on the ballot. He knows he's a force of politics. He is nationalizing these elections, which is just what we did back, in the 90s when Newt Gingrich made that contract with America, and they nationalized the midterms, and that was very, very successful. This is during Reagan's time. So Trump's no fool. He's going out there. He's inviting people to give him the referendum, to say, yeah, you like what I've done so far? I mean, right now we've got the lowest unemployment in ever, and most people, I don't care what color or breed you are, it doesn't even matter, right? I don't care where you come from, there are more jobs than can be filled. So lowest unemployment for Hispanics, lowest unemployment for Blacks, lowest unemployment for even teenagers. I'm not sure on that, but I mean, it's just amazing that our economy is going crazy. And if you'll remember, one of our former Democrat presidents, Clinton, said, the economy's stupid. I mean, that was one of his, I thought it was the cigar. No, it wasn't. So you know what? If we just want to believe Bill Clinton, it's the economy, right? And Trump is outperforming every president in modern time on the economy. Yeah, he's doing better than Reagan did because of the things that he's been able to get through. Of course, the tax cut helped, things like that. So he is nationalizing these midterms, and I think that's very smart.
Right. What's interesting too is that when we see the pollsters, and a lot of this, this whole blue wave phenomenon that's not going to happen has been based upon polls. Now, if we look at the Trumpian news cycle and how pollsters actually failed, how can they capture the essence of what America is when the president keeps tweeting and his news announcements? So the question, I guess, is whether the Twitterverse is actually going to overcome and overwhelm the fake news.
I don't know. Twitter is it's its own type of swamp, isn't it? It's just, it allows people who get to hide behind, fake accounts to be vicious and mean and to say things that they normally never would. They would never have the guts to say that to somebody's face, so I don't know. But I do know that what Trump is able to do by tweeting out things is he captures the media cycle. The media must respond. That's how they create news anymore. The make-believe media, as I said, they make it up, they make you believe it. That's what they do with polls. That is their make-believe factory. They go out and I actually worked for the LA Times as a pollster when I was in my 20s. And I've seen how they write the questions, and you're not allowed to deviate from the questions at all. But if you slowly go through the questions and emphasize the words so that the person on the other end can understand, they'll pause and they'll say, oh, well, wait a minute, you mean da 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 da, and I'll say, well, and I just repeat the question. The questions themselves are slanted in such a way to invite a certain response. And that's why these polls are I don't think they're reliable, because they've been proved to be wrong, several times. Like the last election, everybody thought Hillary had it in the bag.
Yeah.
Well, Hillary was a bag, but she didn't have it in the bag, let me tell you. And that was all on the polls. That's what the news media, that is their fantasy world. That's their, that's the way that they create the news. And then they cite to it, like Nate Silver is saying, well, 85% sure we're going to take the House. Well, he's just citing polls. He doesn't know. He's just saying, and then the reporting itself becomes the persuasion. Well, we're going to win, and therefore, there's no point for you, people, the Trump people, you shouldn't even vote. Just stay home because it's already in the bag. And it's almost a way of depressing the vote before it's even happened. That's what they do with
Yeah.
polls. And now the
Yeah.
way that Trump has been able to counter all of that is just with tweeting. He just wakes up at 3 in the morning or whenever, whenever Melania hands him the phone, I don't know, but he starts zapping things, and it just drives the media crazy because he's cutting through. He's cutting through their make-believe show, and then he starts tweeting things directly to people. And to the extent that the Twitter universe is direct contact with voters, it is a democracy in that sense. We are a republic. However, the democracy nature of what Twitter is just it's a majority of people talking at one time. That's it. He can connect with that, and he can do it anytime he wants. He doesn't have to get Sanders out there and call a press conference. He doesn't have to deal with these arrogant people in the media who are sitting out there trying to play gotcha with questions. He can just tweet something, and all of a sudden, and the media have to, like little lapdogs, they have to run after them like little sausage dogs with short legs, and trying to keep up with him, running after him, going, wait, I need to report on that, wait, and then they report on his tweets, which of course give it even more coverage. So they hate him for that. I think it's actually quite clever. And so he's able to reach voters directly. He gets the story put out more and more and more. So he's wagging the dog, right? His tweets are wagging the dog, and they're not able to counter it. So they hate that, and maybe it will just motivate enough people to disregard the fake news, which I think was a brilliant call for him when he called CNN fake news, because it is.
Right. Well, one of the things that I find it pretty interesting is that, again, looking at 2016 and now looking at 2018, and how you can't codify it in terms of the size of the rallies, or the size of the reaction to issues like the Kavanaugh issue and issues like that, where the pollsters are not really capturing the essence of the truth. And number two, also how we as voters, and especially conservatives and Christians in particular, have this feeling of avoidance. We aren't going to trust them because we know the polls that are used by liberals are often wrong, as we saw in 2016, but more importantly, they don't really truly capture the essence of who we are. And one of the things that I find interesting too about this is that the measure of the posters. So I've been watching these posters since the middle part of May, actually, and looking at what they were saying, and this whole blue wave kept growing and growing, and then it hit the wall. And I call it the Kavanaugh wall.
It hit the wall. Just like that, Carol. Yeah, we just need to build that wall. That's all. We need the wall, folks.
And what's interesting too, when you see the president, what he did in terms of the rallies before Kavanaugh and the rallies after, during Kavanaugh and after Kavanaugh, it's unbelievable. And one of the persons, Trish Hope, who's the publisher of Just the Tweets, she has a compilation of the president's 5-year tweets, and she talked about this in Real Clear Politics, and she said that one of the things that is important is that these tweets actually have become like the rocket fuel that actually help fuel the rallies itself, so that we see the tweets by the president, we end up at these rallies, and we see the multiplier effect that's occurring, and the excitement building by the president, and of course in those areas, those key areas that we have to capture or retain in terms of midterm elections.
And we also see something else, which is the Jim Costa effect, which is the media not wanting to go to the rallies, and they're kind of doing a blackout. They don't report on the size of these rallies anymore. Instead, they'll pontificate, or they'll go to the talking head Jim Costa and who poo-poos it, but they don't want to pan around. They don't want to even go inside these rallies because there's 100,000 people, like in Houston. That on a Monday in Houston there were 100,000 people who had asked for tickets, even though the Toyota Center there in Houston could only accommodate 18,000 people. So there's a bunch of people outside too. Well, the media they don't want you to see that, and they control the lens. They control the lens through which we as passive audience can perceive what they deem is the truth.
Right.
So if they aim at, and they do this all the time at, like, the March for Life I participated in before, the pro-life rally, and like in San Francisco, they will focus on 18 LGBTQXYZ LMNOP people wearing funky hats and, you know, with the most vulgar signs.
Right, right.
And they'll take an angle, or they'll have it, you know, just so you can see these harpies just screeching, and that's what makes the news.
Right.
But I sat there, I watched it one year, and by looking across, just eyeballing it, the you know, 20 people across in wave after wave of people coming through, I was able to say, well, geez, they've got to be at least 60 or 70,000 people going across the starting line for this walk. But that isn't reported, nor do we have pictures of it. You have to go to, you know, Facebook or Instagram or somewhere else. You've got to get, you know, the citizen on the street, you know, who's just texting to their friends, or they're, you know, posting on social media to see the crowds, because they don't want to show them to you. They want to show you the 18, you know, LGBTQ harpies who are just awful with their hair and the no bra, and they look like, you know, and yeah, you know, that's just not attractive. You know, but that's the face of the Democrats, you know what I'm saying? And they get all of the airtime. And meanwhile, we've got in a recent Nevada rally, you know, Trump drew 8,500 people, but then Vice President Joe Biden, you know, good old plugs there, the chief plagiarist, the vice plagiarizer in chief, he had about 500 people, and you know, in Las Vegas, in Vegas, for crying out loud, right? And former President Obama, I love saying former President Obama, he was in Nevada, and he only had 2,000 people attending his event at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, you know, arena that would have held 18,000 people if anybody had wanted to see him. You know,
and what's interesting is that while the president's numbers are ignored, and the focus by like Obama, I saw the parts of the rally by Obama, and they focus on what Obama actually, the mainstream media focuses on Obama, and they actually as if he's the savior, he's the next savior for the Democrats, even though he's not, he can't run for president again, even though he would want to. Or Hillary says that she says, I want to be president.
They'll amend the Constitution. Once they reclaim it, they'll amend the 25th Amendment or something, and they'll make sure that he can get elected again, so long as.
And when you look at the fortunate thing about this is that the mainstream media focusing on Obama, focusing on what Joe Biden says, is that 80% of the people who now get their news from anywhere, they get their news actually from the internet, from social media, and the millennials especially, and 85 to 90% of Generation Z. So in effect, they're talking to themselves now. I'm talking about the mainstream media.
Yeah, it's a big echo chamber, and they still want to be the controllers and the authority of what is the news. That's why they're so angry. And that, I mean, look, they're probably behind some of the advocacy to, you know, tax the internet and shut down this is a citizen's run around the media, and we see Google and Facebook trying to shut that down. You know, Facebook is routinely, you know, suppressing conservative, you know, posts. So we see that in Twitter. All of these different, and Google, all of these executives are actively trying to suppress regular normal people, just the citizen army of regular Americans, and they're not able to do it. We're shifting through their fingers like bugs them, and so they of course are always wanting the government to step in and do something. You know, tax the internet. You know, we need to you know, find these people and make sure that you know they're appropriately obeying the laws and the rules. The internet is the Wild West, and they thought it was going to be a good thing for them, and now they resent it. President
Obama said in 2016 that the one thing he regretted as president was not being able to get control over, quote, social media because of how it was used by now President Trump. And what's interesting too, getting back to the rally situation, is that I've been in politics for a long time, and one of the things that we know at rallies is that, and it's called the multiplier effect, and that's something that most people don't really realize, is that for the president, when he has, let's just take a look at what he did in Nevada, at that Nevada rally, 8,500 people. Well, you multiply that times 5, sometimes 10, depending on how big your circle of friends or family is, and that's the impact that you're having in that area alone. But in addition, now you add social media to it. They're posting, they're sharing. So you, in effect, 8,500 people become 85,000 very easily in terms of social media. And that is the fear, and that is the stress that the Democrats are feeling, and they can't actually poll that.
No,
They can't
because a
measure that.
lot of people aren't even answering the polls. Very
Right.
few. A lot of people are afraid to deal with, when somebody calls you, and first of all, it's very hard for them to even reach people because nobody has landlines anymore. So they're
Yeah.
now having to pull through, cell phones, and so it's a little harder for them. And the second thing is, a lot of people I don't want to tell who I'm, voting for or what I'm doing. Right? It's none of your
Right.
business. I don't. And the real reason is, I think down deep, we don't trust the media anymore. Used to
Yeah.
be, well, okay, they were the fourth pillar of government, and I'll tell them how I feel because they'll report on it. They'll, they're my ally in a way, right?
Yeah. Right.
We don't feel that anymore. We know
No.
the truth. We know that they have their own political agenda. They're not just observers. See, I wouldn't mind if they're just neutral observers. That'd be fine. That's what I would prefer, right? Because I can go and find conservative advocates and blog spots and anything I want. I can, if I need to check in and get a dose in the arm of real good old fashioned red blooded hoorah kind of conservatives, I can find that, right? So
Right.
I don't need to turn on the news for that. I can go get
Right.
that, right? But for the news, we really do want, okay, just please tell me what is really happening. Don't focus your lens on the 18, LGBT funny, funky hat chicks with the bad hair and no bra. I don't want to just see that. I want to see what else there is there. If they're there, that's great. Just pan back, okay? And
Yeah.
show me the 100,000 people who are marching and actually wearing nice shirts and being polite and pushing babies in strollers and waving and all of that. And then you can show me the 18, harpies on the side. That's fine. Just show me the whole picture. Stop
Right.
editing my view. Stop editing the facts.
Right.
That's
Now,
the problem with the media, and it has been forever. And so we don't trust it anymore. And we just say, you know what? I think a lot of people they're underreporting how they're going to vote. They don't want the media to know because we know what they're going to do with it. We know they're going to twist the numbers. So
right.
I don't even know if we can believe any of the polls that are
No.
coming out because of the sample size and the reluctance of people to even say what they're going to do.
Well, what's interesting, again, looking at, quote, recent poll, Washington Post had a poll, actually pretty recent, and it talked about, or it looked at 69 contested House districts in the country. 50% of those voters support the Democrats and 47% support Republicans. Now, that's important because a generic poll that has been shrinking. Back in March and May through May of this year, the generic poll was about 15 to 17 points in favor of the Democrats. It's been shrinking, and then it accelerated during the Kavanaugh hearings. So now when we look at these polls, you're seeing the sample size in terms of the separation for the generic ballot for Congress being about 5 points. Now that's a tremendous tightening of the race. That's very small. Within
that's the blue wave evaporating because that is the Kavanaugh. This is Feinstein jumping the Kavanaugh shark. That's what we're seeing when she decided to pull out this and try to smear a good man. And I think so many men, black and white, brown, any color. I think a lot of men saw that and they're afraid. It's kind of like, that movie long ago with Glenn Close, where she all of a sudden, she's having an affair and she snaps and she comes after the family to stab you. I mean, all of a sudden you know that could be me, that they can come after me and they can smear my life and they can smear my family. And I don't like what the Democrats are doing. They're playing unfair. And I think I know that Feinstein did that because she's running for re-election here in California. And I hope she loses to De Leon. Kevin De Leon is running to replace her. And I hope she does lose to him because the dirty tricks that was an attack on all men, really. Just to be able to say, well, I mean, it's very unlikely that any woman would make this up. I mean, they've actually come out with, oh my gosh, studies now to kind of bolster to their damage control is what they are. They're publishing reports that saying, well, it's a very low percentage that women would ever make up any kind of, sexual assault allegation that wasn't true. So they're trying to bolster, they're trying to backpedal all of this by in this very smarmy way of saying, well, most women would never lie about that. Therefore, she didn't. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the implication of all of this.
Right.
And the whole problem is we don't know, and we never will know if she lied or if she didn't lie, because she didn't give us enough facts to verify one way or another. She never even gave us dates and locations so that we could establish, well, where was Kavanaugh and where were people at the time. She gave just enough information so that we could spin a story.
Yeah.
Back in the day, 36 years ago, when she was 15, the poor child, she doesn't even remember who drove her home. Did her mother, did her father? None of it. She gave just enough. And now we're hearing stories about, well, most women never make this. Most women are clean and pure as the wind-driven snow, and they would never lie about that. Well, that's really nice. But the implication of all of this is that men are dirty, rotten liars. And they're sexual attackers, and they will attack anyone at any time. And I think a lot of men watching that just said, you know, this is unfair. This was an unfair political use of something, and it had no basis in fact. And that's when Feinstein jumped the shark, and that, I think, is what evaporated the blue wave. Everybody said, "Oh, no, I can't vote for people who would do this to a decent man, because it might be me, it might be my brother, it might be my father, it might be my son. I can't."
Child, right.
Yeah, I can't do this anymore with these people if this is what it's come to. The interesting thing is that that Trump capitalized on that.
Well,
Trump is saying what we're all thinking, which is, that this is.
He stood behind Kavanaugh.
Yes, he stood right behind.
And he said due process, and that's the foundation of our country and the Constitution, our due process protection. He didn't call Ford a liar. He just said, I will stand behind him, and we'll see what happens in terms of the facts. Well, the facts never appeared because I don't know what happened. Like you said, I don't know what happened to Ford. We do know what happened is that she didn't present any facts, and the leadership, the Democratic leadership and the pundits and the mainstream media jumped on board to actually convict him without any kind of evidence, without any, not even a smidget of evidence. It was not even microscopic. It just didn't exist. And the president was able to capitalize that, as you said, on the truth. And on his defense,
and on the search for truth, which is due process. That's the basis of our republic, which is, okay, you cannot convict someone unless they have an opportunity to answer charges and they have a fair, full opportunity to face their accuser. And that's why we have rules of evidence and courts and all of these things. And you just can't do that. It goes against who we are as a country, because that's exactly what England used to do. You were presumed guilty until you could prove yourself innocent, and they would just throw you in jail. I mean, you are guilty because I am the state and you are my subject. That's the English, I'm the queen and you are my subject, and therefore I own you. It is the extent of slavery, right? That's what the nature of a king or queen state. And owning subjects. That's the feudalism. That's owning a person. You're my worker. You're my person, and I am your queen. I am your king. That whole mindset is what Americans founded this country to reject. We said, no, you're not the king or queen over me. I receive my rights and my life and everything that I am from God. And you get the same thing. So I'm equal to you, and you are no better than I am. And therefore, I am going to create this new, totally new system. And that's why we call it that America is the exception to the rule of tyranny all over the world, and the rule of history is, okay, we're going to form a country that is based on the rule of law according to, the natural law that descends from Judeo-Christian concepts. And we're going to believe that you are innocent until the government can prove you guilty. I'm not going to go with the government and say, well, the government owns me anyway, and I am a slave to the government. We rejected that. And it took us a while to reject it all the way down and say, no, we're not 3/5 of a person either. All people are the same value of personhood. And it took us a while, and we fixed that too. And we hundreds of thousands of people died to prove that. And so we continue to be the exception against the rule of, well, no, I can pronounce and put you in jail because I am the king and the queen. That's what the media is trying to do. The media is trying to be the king or queen of our masters. And they only show us the 18 harpies over there. So they skew the evidence. They don't show us the whole picture, and then they bestow upon us just what they want us to see and lead us just
Exactly.
so that they can control us. The medias want to be our masters, and here's Trump and some of the more clever people in Congress. They're making end runs around them, saying, no, I can use social media. I can find a way around you. Is the media? I don't even think the Democrats are really in charge of trying to the government. The media is the king master or the queen. They are the kings and queens of old, and they manage the Democrats. And
Well,
by their use, they are trying to skew the elections so that they remain in control, so that their minions, their Democrat minions, remain in control.
exactly.
That's why people hate the media.
See, the thing is about that too, is that everybody has a camera in their phone.
Yep.
So remember, in the past, the lens of the media, of mainstream media, was the only lens that you could see. But now that you have millions of Americans anywhere, they have that phone and that camera, and so they can show the truth. They can show those actual, like McConnell being under attack or Sanders being under attack just for having dinner in a restaurant.
Just for eating dinner in a restaurant, they go after her. And now we have all these citizen journalists, like Project Veritas. That's how, he started. Just citizen journalists with your camera. You can just tape somebody and you've got it, and you can, in a few seconds, you can upload that on social media and it can go viral before the police can even get to the restaurant and stop these people.
Exactly.
That is one of our biggest, it's our defender. That is the true use of what media should be. Media should be a defender of the people and of the truth, but it's not. It wants to be our king and queen, and that's why we don't trust him anymore.
No, and one of the things, speaking again about the media, you look at a person like Steve Bannon, who says that in this case, the media, we are the media in terms of social media. And the other thing is that he's saying actually that you can forget these polls because these polls really don't matter. And he actually had an example. He said polls do not reflect the real support for the Republican Party, and that things will be like 2016. And he also made the point that you made, Susan, and that is that Republicans are unwilling to tell people their political beliefs because they are part of the silent majority, and they know what it means to keep the Republicans in control of Congress. Therefore, why would they give away what they believe to posters who would try to factor that in and then use those factors in order to get more Democrats to the polls? They wouldn't.
I don't want to give any advantage to this, to these people who are going to then massage the poll numbers or a week before the election, because that's where we're essentially just a week or so away from the election. I'm not gonna tip my hand. I'm not going to tip my hand. I'm going to say, I don't know if I'm going to vote. I mean, there's so many people. I'm a tiny, mini little multiplier. I'm not. It's just in my local area, but there's so many people because I'm, I talk at the grocery store and I talk to people.
Here comes Susan.
He's back. But a lot of people will email me or Facebook me and say, how are you voting? How are you voting on our local things? And they're very interested because the thing is they want to know the truth. They want to know, well, what is the right way to vote? And I'll say, well, I don't know what the right way is, but I'll tell you why I'm voting the way I'm voting. Yeah. And the interesting thing is, we've mentioned Feinstein. I'm actually, I confess now, I'm going to have to go to political absolution. I swear it's going to be. Well, your father was a preacher. Maybe somehow you can give me political absolution because I'm actually voting for a Democrat in this election.
My grandfather was a minister for 75 years, and
we got to channel that man because I'm going to need absolution because I'm voting for a Democrat. And usually we don't in our jungle primary. We're stuck with the top Democrat vote getters, and that's it. I'm going to actually vote for Kevin De Leon because I want him to defeat Feinstein so as to erode her power, kick her out. So we'll just have a junior member of Congress. We won't have she's been around forever. I mean, and she won't have the powerful positions. He will not retain her powerful positions on the Intelligence Committee and all of these different committees because she's come out against a really good nominee that Trump has nominated for the Ninth Circuit. And so I want her out. So I'm actually going to, so please let's, I don't know what we need to do, but I'm going to need some absolution here at the end.
Well, I can tell you that what he would say, and that would be, what is the best way that we can actually activate protection for Christians.
Yes.
And the best way to do that is to eliminate the biggest threat. The biggest threat is Feinstein.
At
That's
least
the
I'm
reality.
yeah. So there you
So
go. All
there you
right.
go.
Good. I'm okay.
And yeah, and on that note, the biggest trump card for Trump actually may very well be the white evangelicals, because they're
Yes.
not really hidden, to be honest, but they're really hidden because they are not being accounted for in these midterm elections, and certainly in certain states like California, in those House races in Pennsylvania, Missouri, Ohio, even in Ohio, they're not being counted, but they actually can represent that, as they did in 2016, that push over, the line so that we win in those House races. And because in the Senate, we're gonna pick up. We aren't gonna lose anything.
Yeah.
But in the House, very important, and the white evangelicals are really, really on fire. So, I find it interesting that you bring Kavanaugh to the evangelicals and those who are Christians, who believe in supporting pro-life, and you think about what the Democrats have been saying in the post, that, well, you know what, after Kavanaugh, they're going to kind of go into hiding again, or they're going to not vote because they got what they want.
No.
They did not get what we wanted. We actually want everything. We want to eliminate, actually, abortion. We want to make certain that Roe v. Wade becomes a distant thought in the past.
Yes.
We want to actually activate and protect the 55 million more who we don't want to see murdered, as the 55 million were murdered under Roe v. Wade. So, with this whole idea that people are going to sit down because they got what they wanted, this is just a dream. That the liberals,
we must defeat abortion. We're not going to tolerate. We are to this extent, white evangelicals, Christians, Catholic, black, white, any other color. We are very intolerant of abortion, because we know that it is through abortion that they kill souls. And we are very, very intolerant of that. And no, I don't want to tolerate abortion. I can't coexist with Planned Parenthood. Especially when they're using my money to do their satanic ritual of killing a baby. I can't allow that. And so, yeah, we are polite and we're civil, but don't mistake that for being tolerant of abortion. We just don't break things and break into buildings and act like these Democrat savages by sending, bombs in the mail or targeting people at baseball games and sick things like that. What we do is we go to the ballot box. We vote and we protest within the law, and we don't hurt people, but we do march, and we do what we need to by talking to other people, because we do not tolerate abortion. We do not tolerate Planned Parenthood. I don't want to tolerate the killing of children or euthanasia or anything. I don't want to abuse old people just because they're inconvenient. We are very intolerant, and they somehow they keep trying to sell us the notion that we can all just coexist. Can't we all just get along, to quote a Rodney King kind of a spiel, but in political sense. There is no getting along. There is no tolerating the killing of babies. I don't want to allow a 16-year-old girl who walks into Planned Parenthood. I don't want to let her go under the knife so that her child is taken from her just because she's afraid, just because she doesn't want to talk to her mom, or because of whatever reason, whatever sales job they've done to her. I don't want her to have to go through that and regret it later. I want her to be protected and safe. I want her to be able to talk to her parents, and I want her to feel very, very safe. And I want that child that she's carrying to have a chance to live, because I'll bet you that if we could poll little babies, they would rather be born than unborn. We've already seen stories of people who've been born with crippling deformities and birth defects. And I think to a man, they've all said, "Yeah, I'm still glad I'm here. I'm really glad I had the chance at life. Life is beautiful." And yet those are the people that the left would tell us should have been aborted, should have been killed. So don't mistake us for being tolerant. We are very quietly waiting. I think a lot of us are champing at the bit to vote, because we didn't want Kavanaugh per se. We want justice. We want our Constitution to be full-throated and fully enforced across the United States. Kavanaugh's just one more step toward that goal.
Right. And I think the mistaken belief that somehow we won by having Kavanaugh put on the Supreme Court, that somehow we're not going to vote, because that's how liberals are. They get satisfied and they sit down. We are not satisfied, and we will continue to stand up.
They keep working and working and working behind the scenes. I think they're just saying that so that they can placate us, so that they can say, well, you already got what you wanted. You have Kavanaugh, the abuser, on the Supreme Court. Why don't you just go home? And then they have these women buying these crazy jackets that look like, vaginas and whatever. They want to get in your face and say, you know what, it's like Hillary said, we can't be civil until we win the power. So what they're saying is, we are going to keep in your face. We're going to show you these ugly images, and we're going to keep harassing you at restaurants, and we're going to keep, targeting you at baseball games until you give us back the power. And so just sit down and shut up. You got your Kavanaugh. You got it. Just go home and you be good, quiet little people. Otherwise, we're going to come target you. That's the clear. What has happened is, instead of advocating now and going to congressional representatives or senators and to their offices and at least validly protesting, now they're targeting voters. That's what they're trying to do. They've been smearing Trump voters from the very beginning. They're the Walmart shoppers, whatever. They try to paint us with a broad brush and say like this MAGA bomber, as though he is us, which is an absolute falsehood. That's just a lie. But they want to use anything they can to attack the voters. Because, look, Trump is nothing without his voters. Trump is just a successful politician because we, the people, voted for him. And that's what irritates these people in the media and the Democrats. They hate us. And so now they're piercing the political veil, if you will. They're no longer even going after somebody like Trump or the political person. What they are now doing, like Ted Cruz or something, they're piercing the political veil, and they're attacking the voters themselves and calling us ignorant and all sorts of different names. They have for a lot of time. They're going to try to paint us as racists or intolerant people, because we are the source of Trump's power. We are the source of the power for the Republicans. The problem is the Republicans don't know how to use the power that we keep giving them. And that's why we have to keep replacing them every now and again, because they squander the power we give them. But that's why the media hates us. That's why they smear us. And that's why they will not report on what we are going to do. And that's why we don't trust them, and we don't tell them what we're going to do, because we now know that the media and the liberals are targeting us. So it's like, okay, fine. We're not going to tell you what we're doing. We're going forward quietly without sharing information anymore. It's a very hostile.
The other thing too, Susan, is that I look at as a political person, I'm looking at the independents, because they typically hold the key to any election, both and it doesn't matter, president, governor, legislature, whatever.
Sadly, it's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Because
and so,
their mind, and it just baffles me.
Yeah. And so what's interesting is that how are they looking at this? And I think that's really where you see the polls closing, because everything else is pretty much baked in a cake, so to speak, in terms of voters who support or against a particular candidate. In this case, the independents, those are the ones who are coming home to whatever, and they're coming home more so for Republicans. Now, one of the things I'm not a betting person, but if I were, I would look at the USA Today, and they're saying, actually, in this particular article, that the smart money is on Republicans keeping control of the House. How do you feel about that? Do you have a sense in your bones that they may have something, that they may actually be onto something?
I think so. I read that article, and the funny thing is they're looking at this. It's an odds maker called MyBookie.
Yeah.
And MyBookie favors Republicans maintaining a hold of the majority.
Yeah.
And even though Nate Silver is saying, oh no, it's only 15% chance they're going to retain it. Well, yeah, but the guy who's actually crunching the numbers, the man who's going to make or break the money, MyBookie, right? The odds of the GOP keeping the House were at -140. That would mean that you would have to bet $140 on Republicans maintaining control in order to win 100 if they stay in the majority. That's not good odds for Nate Silver and the Democrats. It means that most people think that the Republicans are going to hold the House. And the interesting thing is this, MyBookie, he's not the media.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's a bookmaker probably in Vegas somewhere, right? He just wants to make money. And this
Yeah.
is, it's kind of funny how capitalism is informing the race. Capitalism says, oh, I got too many people betting that the Republicans are going to hold. So, you know, my odds are going to change accordingly. And that's got nothing to
Yeah.
do with politics. That's just got to do with good old fashioned
Yeah.
quasi-legal betting, which I don't like, but hey, that's my bookie, and that's the U.S. My bookie's gonna clean, and you know the bookies always clean up, no matter who wins or who loses. They
Yeah.
don't, because it's a horse race to them. So yeah, I'm very confident we're gonna keep the Senate. I think we're gonna keep the House. The interesting thing for me would be to go to each one of these, you know, the 23 or 25 districts. Those are the flip, because there's so many, 15 or so people retired, congressmen retired. I kind of wonder why all of a sudden they just bailed out this year, right? Why would they retire now? But
Well,
that's the swing, those 15.
Well, here's the thing. People, and I've worked with congressmen and women for a long, long time. They just get tired. And to be honest, like anything else, they just feel like, okay, I've done my stint.
True.
I got my
got my
golden
money.
parachute.
I'm out.
Yeah, I made my money and I got my golden parachute, so I'm out of here.
Right,
And so, you know what? If you spend 15 or 20 years in the House, actually, you can only need to spend 2 in order to get a golden parachute. But
I know, right? And healthcare and everything. Golly,
yeah.
I mean, sweetest job there is, right?
Yeah. So if you think about that, they've got. So the thing is, here's where the challenge is, and again, we're going to look at that next week in terms of the kind of zero in on the House races, because that's really where the real rubber meets the road.
Yes, where they're all falling, because if the Democrats do get it, I think it's only going to be, it'll be very slight. Like right now, we've just got a slight majority, but it'll be really interesting. I know we're going to talk, next time with somebody who knows a little bit more about that. Those 23 districts or so, that's going to tell the tale.
Yeah, and
but
the other thing,
I hope we can nationalize it. I think what Trump is doing is absolutely right. I think that every Republican ought to flock to Trump and explain what will happen. Just consider what will happen if we do lose the House. That Maxine Waters she's promising impeachment, and the first thing, and I think it was Pelosi or Maxine who promised that they wouldn't go for Trump first. They're going to go for Kavanaugh first. They're going to bring impeachment proceedings against Justice Kavanaugh first thing out of the box. They're going to go after this man. They're going to savage him again. That's what's coming if we do not retain the House.
Well, and I think the other thing, in order to do this, I actually believe that in terms of this tsunami that we want for the red wave, this week, every single day, this week, going into next week and Tuesday, you got to, get on social media. You really have to make certain that you push the Trump message, nationalize this message, but also talk about how it affects you, because, it's interesting. People get involved when things affect them. So I'm just saying, because my experience is that the best way to get involved is to make certain you show people how you are impacted by these issues. You know that the economy is doing well. You know that you have more money in your pocket. These are the given. But we're not saying that enough. So we have to push that, because that's the narrative. If we lose, we know that those tax breaks that we got are going to be taken back by the Democrats. That's the reality. So here's the question. Do you want to give away, your advantage? Do you want to give away your legacy, the legacy that you want to leave for your kids and for yourself by just letting the Democrats win? Because they're going to take all that away, and they're going to take away whatever we were able to accomplish in this 2 years with the president. It's gone if they win the House.
Well, Pelosi, as I said, it's just crumbs anyway. And
but
she wants the crumbs back. It's like, well, if they're just crumbs, Nancy, couldn't we keep our little crumbs from Queen Pelosi? But Queen Pelosi wants them back, and she's still She still wants that gavel back. Yeah. Queen Pelosi wants her scepter, which is the gavel. Wink, wink, wink. I am now Speaker of the House. She wants her scepter back. I don't want Queen Pelosi back. I really don't. And I want to keep my crumbs. Thank you very much. Because guess what? They're mine. They're not yours, Nancy. Yeah. It's my money. It's not yours. You guys are my. This is the whole. Again, back to why America is so exceptional. Mm-hmm. We, the people, are the kings and queens, and the government workers, they are our servants. Nancy
Right.
Pelosi should be my servant. I would like her cleaning my house, actually. That would be really cool. But
Yeah.
a lousy job because she's a lazy
Yeah.
Democrat. But anyway, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't want Nancy Pelosi telling me what I can do with my money. And that's what she's going to do. That's what they've got it all lined up. That's why we have to keep the House. And that's why we have to keep the Senate. And
Here's the other thing too. If you have early voting and it has not expired, vote. That's important, because we can't, here's the bottom line is that we're seeing in some of these states, early voting is actually favoring Republicans. We can't take that for granted. We have to. If your state allows you for early voting, get out there and vote, because it's important on election day that if you've already voted, then get other people to the polls. You know, why stand at
not the dead people. That's what Democrats do. They go and sign up the zombies. So you can't create, you have to get real people.
No, real people.
Real people who are alive and can vote, and not illegal immigrants, and not dead people, and not minors. Okay, but you can go help your neighbor. You can go get your neighbors.
And that's why it's important. Use every legal method possible. And I say vote early, because then on election day you become the vehicle for others to be able to vote too. It's important. It's critical. You can't let anything slide on this election. This midterm election, you know, we aren't going to see, I don't think, what happened in 1894. That's not going to happen. But it doesn't really matter if we lose 23.
That would be uber cool. Would that just not be good to have 100 seats lost from the Democrats?
Yeah, we want to see that another time. Maybe in 2020. Maybe in 2020 we can see that with President Trump's reelection. We can see what it really means to have a Trumpian effect on the country in 2020 with this reelection. And you know what? Bring 1894 on for us. Let's do a multiple maximum whack job in terms of, you know, on those Democrats and those
I want to see Pelosi's eyes pop, and I want to see Maxine Waters, stay woke, stay woke. I want to see their faces when they've lost the House. I'd love it to be huge, but I'll take it even any. I would love to just see them crying in their beer.
Yeah. Well, you know, and speaking
we'll give them a Kavanaugh beer to cry.
Yeah. Say woke, we're going to have Mark Sutherland back. And he's to talk about, from England, he's going to talk about the European effect on this election and what they're looking at in terms of the midterms, how it will affect England after the midterms, and how it will affect Europe itself after the midterms. So we're going to have Mark on to talk about that. And so it's going to be pretty exciting to see what do they think about over the pond in terms of this midterm election, and how it really will affect us here in America, and those, of course, across the pond as well. So enjoy that the next time. And this has been a wonderful time, Susan, to share, again, the Trumpian impact on this election, what may happen, what probably will happen, and how it really will, again, continue to make America great again, and exceptional too.
Awesome.
Okay. You take care, you guys, and have a wonderful day. And God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless America.
Bye-bye.